Welcome to All Things in the Name of Love. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. And today I have with me a new soul sister who I already feel the resonance with a very close last spelling name, Kirsten Rudberg, who's an MDIV graduate and a panentheist. I know I pronounced that wrong. But you're also an author, and I love that they were recently acquired by George R.R. Martin's bookstore in Santa Fe, which is so cool. You're a screenwriter, producer, and podcaster. You believe in humanity, use your words in diverse ways to encourage us to be better in this world, but I love that. And you're especially drawn to defending our shared environments. And this is why we have so many connections, because one of my favorite, since I was little, bees and trees.
Yes. Yes. And I am a beekeeper too. Well, okay.
So many conversations. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. And I'm so excited, clearly, to talk to you about so many different things. But for now, thank you.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You're so welcome. So I want to talk to you a little bit. I mean, clearly we're going to have many conversations, but tell me a little bit about your spiritual journey.
Yeah, well, I grew up overseas. And I think at such a pivotal time in my life in Guyana, South America, and then 4 years in Lahore, Pakistan, when you're a kid, you just think the world is this way, right? Filled with lots of variety, different art, different architecture, different ways of being, different cultures, different languages. I mean, that was my norm. I thought life was like that, different religions. And, you know, consider me completely perplexed when we moved back to Illinois. And we were suddenly in a place that was almost like Stepford Wives, in that everything was the same. Everyone was white. I had to go to a school suddenly where it mattered what I wore, what I brought in my lunchbox, who I was friends with. I tell everyone it didn't help that my mom sent me on the first day of school in my Pakistani clothing. That was such a big, big fail on her part.
Right.
Yeah, my sister and I were wearing matching Pakistani clothing. That
Wow.
did not endear me to anyone.
Right.
So,
Beautiful and
yeah. I went from this really gorgeous existence of just lots of variety and difference and multiculturalism to Illinois, which has its own charms, but when you're a kid, it's super challenging. And as a result, I had to do fourth grade again. I couldn't adjust. I was just too psychologically confused by everything that had happened. I didn't adjust at all. Had to do fourth grade again, and then spent years hiding in the library because I was terrified of this new world that I was in. The different cultures, just trying to fit in. I felt like I failed every single time. And then in eighth grade, the guidance counselor took pity on me, or not pity, I don't know. She called my parents. I walked into the guidance counselor's office one day and they banned me from the library. And they said, "We're banning you because you're not developing socially." And that was true, but that was on purpose.
right.
And I was forced to go out and hang out with kids
Oh,
my
wow.
own age. And that first day was terrifying. It scared the living crap out of me. And I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know how to talk to anyone. The people who took me in were these three African American girls that, I didn't know, but I walked over and they started talking to me and they became my friends. And they were so kind. I'm sure they saw me there, standing there, looking like a duck out of water, freaking out internally. And they're like, "We've got to take some pity on this thing." But I mean, being evicted from the library saved me, because when I graduated from eighth grade, I was nominated class clown. When I graduated from high school, I'm sorry, class bookworm. When I graduated from high school, I was class clown. And the sea change in those 4 years and who I was, being kicked out of the library allowed me to understand a part of myself that I didn't know existed. Now, my entire life, I've loved reading science magazines, but I've also been really interested in folktale, fable, myth, how humans create meaning in the world. And I was an atheist for a long time. And then I just started understanding and noticing that there were synchronicities in my life, that life was a lot bigger than I understood. I started studying energy work and chi, and I became somewhat of a mystic. And that's what caused me to go get my master's of divinity. And I went to seminary. And I'm a panentheist, which means that I believe everything is sacred, everything it has legitimacy, everything is here for a purpose, and it needs to be approached or taken in with the proper attitude of that it's sacred and that it has importance and it has legitimacy. And so that's kind of my journey, my spiritual journey, to panentheism. Going to seminary, I was the only person who didn't have a religion. Everyone else was kind of Methodist or Presbyterian or evangelical or what have you. And so I was once again alone, but then as the years progressed, a few other people joined me in my cohort. So I was no longer alone. But it does make it challenging. I am clergy. I'm ordained in the Church of Universal Interfaith. Um, I am ordained, but there are no churches out there. I could probably do unity. I could work for a unity church or Unitarian, but that's just not where I'm feeling called right now. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I'm so curious. Like I'm having a sense that your panentheism, I know I'm butchering it again, I'm sorry. I get that. I was very connected with animals from a very early age. Um, I have a story of me falling on an anthill and crying because I displaced everyone, and I was like 2.5. So I know that I have a very deep connection to all that is, and I've had cedars talk to me, I've had boulders talk to me, and so I understand that very innately. It feels like a very Native American tradition. And so was that something you felt as a little one because of your background? Or did it develop as you integrated all these different socioeconomic, cultural experiences?
I think that as a child, especially when we came back to Illinois, because in Pakistan we were kind of kept behind this gated community. We weren't allowed out. But in
Okay.
Illinois, I was able to actually go outside and play outside pretty
Okay.
freely. And at that time, I have distinct memories of really feeling like the moss that I was playing with was alive, the dirt was alive. It just felt like if I wanted to, I could speak or have a conversation with those things. And I remember just having this profound empathy with the moss, with what I was playing with the cave in the bushes where I would hide sometimes. And then everything kind of took a backseat when my parents started their divorce proceedings.
Mm,
And that their divorce lasted 2 years. It was one of the worst divorces that Kane County had ever seen. It was totally horrific. And my parents did not behave in a I don't know, you could say respectful manner to each other or to
okay.
us.
Okay.
And I mean, from that point on, I could no longer kind of indulge those moments or flights of fancy of connection. I was just trying to survive.
Yeah,
And I think,
yeah.
you know, f- failing fourth grade, who fails fourth grade, but having to do that again, then my parents starting their divorce and, hiding in the library, it was just a matter of survival
Yeah.
from that moment on.
Yeah.
And I really only sort of came back. I mean, I have a very playful nature, a very creative nature, hence all my creative projects. But I think I also have a very childlike nature. And it hasn't been until the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years, that I've been able to tap back in to
Mhm.
it. Maybe you could say when I started seminary in 2015 was
Okay.
the beginning of that journey. Um,
Mm,
but it has been a journey. It's been progressive, it's slowly but surely, like, things change and evolve with me. But yeah, when the adults are having problems around you and life is a struggle, all the other stuff gets put on the back burner.
Yep. I completely understand that. I was an incredibly spiritual child, and then my grandfather died and everything went into chaos. And so I was like, okay, I don't have anyone to relate with. So I could either just shut down or try to navigate life with my spirituality, but I couldn't make it work. So I ended up becoming an expert at numbing myself out for many years.
Yeah.
And that what was a cat I'm just getting guided, like, for me, I've had a few catalysts to kick my ass back into being the spiritual being I am. Did you have a specific catalyst that, like, brought you to seminary, or was it just like a natural intuitive guidance?
Well, in 2009, and I was working in Portland and Oregon, and wasn't really spiritual anything, just
I missed
working.
by 2 years.
What?
I moved into Portland in 2011, so
Oh, that's so funny. So I just, didn't have much going on, was working, doing life. And then it's around, I can't remember, my very, very best friend around the end of 2009, they had just come up with this experimental brain surgery for Parkinson's, and she lived in Florida at the time. And it was going to be a 2-month process. And I just had this profound feeling that I had always gone to be with her, and every lifetime so I knew that I'd already done it, but it was a weird feeling. I was like, why does this feel like I've already done it? I don't understand this, because I haven't. Um, and so I knew that I'd always gone. So I, shockingly enough, quit my job, left my house with my mortgage, and drove across the country to be with her for about 2.5 months while she did this brain surgery for Parkinson's. And she had a really rare case of Parkinson's where she was diagnosed and died within 5 years. It was super aggressive.
um,
And so this surgery was kind of a last ditch effort. And she was my best friend. And 100%, she and I have had many lifetimes together. I know that, which I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. And I was around the same time, starting at about January of 2010, before I drove down in March, I started crying every day and like weeping and sobbing. And I could not figure out what was going on because nothing in my life was really that bad. It was just this wellspring of sorrow and grief. And it was a little alarming, but I thought, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But then it continued as I drove across the US. It was March. I was still crying every day. And I was with Linda trying to help her. And she had 24-hour nursing care. And, it was really challenging to be with her, but also have this kind of bottomless grief coming up. And I was in my bedroom one day at her house, just crying again, thinking, oh my goodness, I must be insane. I'm losing my mind. This is never going to stop. Never. I'm going to cry. What is wrong with me? And all of a sudden, this figure came, this vision, and it was Christ sitting in a lotus position. And he basically said, if you want to stop crying, just say that I'm real. And I was like, what? And he said, no, just if you just say that I'm real, you will stop crying. And I
wow.
was like, whatever, go away. It went away because I'm very stubborn. And so, 2 or 3 more days pass and I'm crying again for like 15 to 20 minutes in the bedroom again. And I just thought, Kirsten, yes, it's a little crazy pants that you've had this vision or whatever just happened. Like you can't even explain it. It's so bizarre and inexplicable. But what harm could it do to say, yes, maybe there's something outside of you? Because the sense that I got was that it wasn't necessarily Jesus or Christ, but like an energy that was
Mhm,
larger than me, that was outside of me, that something that was larger than anything. And it was
mhm.
calling to be recognized. And so I just thought, what's the harm? And so that day I said, all right, fine, 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 you're real, okay, whatever. And then I like turned back and I stopped crying 2 or 3 days later and it was gone. And it was, I can't even explain it, but whatever it was that I was grieving over, it went away.
Wow.
And that was really the first time that I kind of understood that, well, I was hoping that I wasn't losing my mind, but then when I stopped crying, I thought, okay, there are other things happening here that I don't know, that I can't explain yet. So yeah.
Hmm. I love that. It's these very subtle, not subtle pieces of awareness that help us remember more of who we truly are. I'm being guided to share that I don't remember what year it was, but after the Paris bombings,
Mm,
I don't know why no other bombing hit me, but this particular one hit me. And I listened to a meditation, and at the end of it, I just was like, I don't know who's listening. I'm taking a vow of peace.
mm,
And I'm going to divest myself of the movies, the music, the literature, the everything. That was the easy part
mm.
because I'm divesting myself of all of the external stuff. And then I had to go within to find all the places where I wasn't peaceful. Right. So, like, but for the first 6 weeks, because I'm a reader and used to listen to a lot of music, I mean, I still listen to music, it's just a different frequency. And movies, same thing. I was like, okay, what do I do? Because it was like I just removed all of the things that entertained me and distracted me. So I'm like, and I keep hearing, go within, go within, go within. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. But I started, I have meditated before and I went back into another meditation practice. And then I found spaces within me where I was not peaceful.
Mm.
And so we get these pieces of guidance if we choose to listen,
Yeah.
right? There's always choice on how to go deeper into that remembrance of the divine being we truly are.
Yeah. Wow.
Thanks.
Wow. Yeah, because I think it takes, I mean, first of all, you have to be willing to engage in the dialogue with whatever's happening. And like you said, there's choice. You can ignore it. You can say, "Oh, too busy. Don't really have time for that in my day," or don't care, or whatever your reason is. But also it's incredibly brave because you don't know what you're going to find or what you're going to discover or unearth. And
Mhm.
so all I say is wow, because that journey is no joke.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
That's
you're like, no, it's not. It's not.
and and it keeps getting deeper and deeper. Like once you make that choice to like, I want to find like one of my life missions is to fully embody the Christ consciousness that I already am and
Mhm.
remember it. Well, that sounds great, right? Sounds like wow, that's amazing. It's a lot of inner work because like there's so many programs and belief systems that we have that we've taken on from our ancestors, from our past lives, from socioeconomic, cultural influences that we agreed to unconsciously that we now get to consciously divest ourselves of so that we can remember.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, just, having grown up overseas in this place of, for me as a kid, great spaciousness and generosity because we didn't care what color your skin was or what religion you practiced. We just wanted to have fun. To coming back to the States, which is way more rigid with a lot more expectation and judgment.
Mm,
And I'm talking about kids here, right? Kids in general all over the world are more generous and kind to each other than adults are. But
mhm,
even when I came back to the States, and maybe it was the age that I was, it felt super judgmental and that I was lacking and that I didn't fit in.
mhm,
Um, those spaces and places that can break a kid's heart. And it did. It broke my heart. I actually didn't understand that I needed therapy around it until I started seminary and I started talking about that experience of coming back to the States. And that's when I realized that I had a lot of repressed sorrow and grief from just that transition, which I had no idea I'd been carrying that for so long, you know?
Right, we don't, because like it's repressed. Like I had my meridian scanned recently, and I love traditional Chinese medicine. And what came in, one of the things that came in was, and I thought I'd worked on this. Um, there's a piece of me that feels, what was it, betrayal and abandonment, and it's from when I was 6 weeks old and placed in traction, so I could walk, right? So I know it was for my highest good. I know this was divinely orchestrated by source. I know all of that, and it's beautiful. And I've done a lot of work on myself. And I thought I got rid of it. Not get rid of it, but you know what I mean? Like I thought I integrated the healing and I'm better. So no. And I'm like, wow, this is because it goes so deep. The layers go so deep. And the younger we are with the trauma, the more of an opportunity it is to peel the layers apart and unwind that programming. And I'm the only one that abandoned myself. Nobody abandoned me.
Yeah.
And to have that awareness and to love that aspect of me that feels that trauma on some level, because like I have consciously worked through this many years, and it's like, wow, it's still there. It's for me, and it's still surprising that the layers are stored within this beautiful construct of an avatar that I'm in.
Yeah, it's all those stories. Yay. The ancestral stories, the stories that we don't know that we're carrying, the stories that our society is putting on us. It's just so many of them are, and this is not meant to be an insult, but they're so boring because they're the stories that everybody has. And that's why they have power, because they're the stories that everybody has. And my mom is very traditional and she does not like people who are different. And so whenever I would see someone in Portland with pink hair or multiple piercings, she would be disgusted and horrified and just grossed out and say something terrible. And I would think to myself, my God, that human is living their authentic, glorious self. I mean, freedom. That's what freedom looks like, you
Mhm.
know? And I just thought to myself, we need more of that in this world. Like people just saying, I don't care. I don't care what your expectations are. I don't care whatever story you want to put on me. Whatever you're doing is so old and so tired. I'm done with it. And as a matter of fact, a whole bunch of us are done with it. And we're going to move forward and do our own thing. And I
Yeah.
think we need more of that in this world, frankly.
Have you seen, it's coming in, have you seen a shift in that from the 2020 to 2024?
Gosh, I thought you were going to say since I was a kid, which was eons ago, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Um, gosh. So I've lived, I've always, well, okay, so this is a hard thing to answer because I, for the past 4 years, have been around a lot of young people in the jobs that I've worked,
Hmm.
and in cities that are kind of known for producing unique or singular individuals. And so and Portland is known as that too, right? Like, so I can't, I feel like I can't speak to that truly because I definitely, if I'm online and I spend any time online, it seems like everybody is towing some sort of line in one respect or another. Whether it's the bride who's trying to have the perfect wedding or someone who's trying to get their kid in a certain school or what have you. I mean, those things are alive and well. But in the places that I lived, which was Santa Fe and Portland, I can say yes, the I mean, some people seem to be divesting themselves of the expectations of society and doing their own thing. But I don't know if worldwide or even United States wide that's actually true.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not really sure because like I saw a lot of expansion So I was in Portland from 2011 to 2020. And there was this big expansion, and then there was this collapse inward when I'll pinpoint it to when they moved the food carts out of downtown. And it was like a cultural shift from the eclecticness to the corporate energy. And then there was more of a shift when the energy of the pandemic came in. And all of the creative free spirit people that I knew and were expansive and very individualistic just all coalesced into a monoculture.
Mm.
And I saw a lot of free spirited people show up with trauma
Mm.
that was manifested through the pandemic, but it was really inner trauma that they hadn't dealt with. And so it was an interesting shift because I lost a lot of friends. I actually ended up moving down to Weed, California because I was energetically kicked out of Portland.
Okay.
And so, and it was just because I thought I could hike without a mask on.
Ah.
And it was like a very, very powerful dividing line of wanting to breathe.
Yeah.
And so, and coming back in Oregon after 4 years and seeing the fallout, the recovery of the fragile reconstruction of individuality is a very fascinating place to witness.
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing with the pandemic and the masks was, or even the vaccine, I'm like, I feel like everybody can make their own decision up on this, and you can rely on your own intelligence. And it's not for me to say what you should do or what you shouldn't do. I'm just going to rely that you know what's best for you. And I think that was challenging for a lot of people. I think the pandemic, what was interesting about the pandemic for me was just seeing the untapped levels of rage in our society and
Mhm.
understanding that that rage had been there the entire time, but that a lot of people, or maybe the veneer over everything, had kind of kept it, inexpress, like people couldn't express it, or they thought maybe this is unseemly. I don't want people to see me this way. Or they were okay with the status quo. And then something like a pandemic comes along, and the rage and anger that I saw coming from all sorts of different people helped me to understand that holy cannoli, there's so many people walking around with so much trauma that they are not addressing. And they would rather injure and hurt and wound other people than deal with their own stuff.
Mhm.
And look, it's not fun work. It's usually expensive because you have to pay people to help you resolve it. A lot of people can't afford to do that. And that's another, thing that makes me angry is all these life-saving things cost so much money. And that's a whole other conversation that makes me so angry. And then um, it was clear that a lot of people hadn't ever taken the time to go inward like you did, as you were speaking of earlier, and just examine what was really going on inside of them. Someone who's trying to have the perfect wedding and everything's puppy dogs and rainbows and it looks all glitzy and glamoury, but then underneath they're carrying this seething rage because maybe something's not going right, or their fiancés made them angry. And I mean, it's so interesting how we as humans have spent a lot of time trying to seem like we're okay when we're
Right,
not.
right.
When we're not.
Mhm.
Pandemic kind of just pulled the lid off of a whole bunch of anger.
Completely agree with that. I completely agree because, like, we've been, part of the programming
Yeah.
has been like everything's okay. And we can all get along. We have like the Republicans and the Democrats, and I really don't care about politics because I think it's all it's a game. It's a game. It's like all the players are doing that. It's just anyway, I'm not trying to bring that up, but my point is like there was a civility and that's gotten ripped off. And all I see is opportunities to connect because we have so much more in common than any of the superficiality. That is an opportunity for us to really tune in and be like, how do I see you? How do I acknowledge you as a fellow human being? Forget any of the shit that you're carrying. How do I honor you as the divine being that you are? And I do that through honoring the divine being within myself so that I can reflect it to you.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've told people that I try to practice that, but then I meet an ogre out in the world and I'm like, I can just see the failure coming towards me of me.
Neutrality is so freaking hard. Neutrality is so hard. And yet, like when we can actually, and I roll my eyes about this because I've become an expert in triggers. I don't want to be, but like I've gotten to the point where I'm actually welcoming when somebody points out a piece of my subconscious to me. Because I know I can't see it all. So if I get if somebody goes, I'm like, ow, that hurt. Oh, you didn't know it was gonna hurt. Oh, that was for me. Dang it. I can't blame you for that because you didn't do anything to me. You just pressed a button that I didn't know I had. So I get to like be present with that and cry it out and love myself more because that's a piece of me that I didn't see.
Yeah, you're a way better human being than I am.
No, I'm not.
Oh my gosh. Look, I have sometimes been so angry in my life that I feel like if someone had psychic vision, they could see the flames coming off of my body. Um,
What
it's
a
just
cool gift. Seriously, like that's passion. The other side of anger is passion, right? And that's your creativity,
yeah.
which is beautiful. Like, and what a gift to like be able to like. Do you ever express that anger on your own? Like, do you allow yourself to feel the anger flow through you?
Well, I feel it's so rare for me to feel like that.
Okay.
Um, that really I go by the adage that like sorrow and grief is anger that's been repressed. And so when I'm feeling especially tender or sorrowful or grief filled, I think to myself, okay, there's something that needs to be expressed and better out than in, as they say, because otherwise for me it'll get stagnant. And so I'll usually put a movie on that guaranteed is to make me weep as kind of a primer, and then I feel so much better the next day. But I experience, it as, that anger or that sorrow, I've had as intense heat, like I've heat come up in my body.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll feel the release of heat. Sometimes when I'm using my lacrosse ball and my foam roller on my neck where I have a lot of tension, it'll just come out in like blasts of heat.
I love that.
Will just come out. And so, that also allows me to know that I have so much inside of me that I need to release still. So how can I do that? But it really is one of those things where I ignored my body for so long and really abused it for so long. I played soccer forever, like tore 3 ligaments, did all these things and just didn't care as a kid, did not
Right,
care.
right.
Now those chickens have come home to roost. They're like, I'm like, things are going sideways, and here's why. And you are going to have to deal with this on multiple different levels. And it's different for everybody. Everybody can use a different modality or multiple modalities. And
Right.
mine is massage, acupuncture, cranial sacral, I mean, not right now. My life's a little bit up in the air right now, but I've done talk therapy, I've done EMDR, and each one kind of helps you, moves you
Mhm.
further along the path to healing.
Oh, I completely agree with it. Like I did body talk until I did something else. And now like one of the practices that my body absolutely loves, my ego does not, is somatic healing. Because I have to be present with myself. I get to be present with myself. I don't have to do anything, but I get to be present with myself. And when I feel the energy, and my body knows, because I practiced it for the past 3 years, it's like, oh, she's going into the somatic practice now, finally. And I try to do it daily because like I can feel my body shift and it's like, oh, she's gonna be present now. Ah, thank you. But it's just like it's so funny because like my ego fights it because it knows that there's something that I want to look at, and my body is just so grateful.
Yeah, there is, I mean, I do think in our society or our culture, we're not really encouraged to have deep communion or relationship with our bodies. We're kind of rewarded for our intelligence or creativity, which is all, I feel like Western society culture says that it's centered around the brain. Whereas, in Eastern, like Chinese medicine, they say like intelligence comes from the heart. So, for me, it's really beautiful to think of the heart as the seat of creativity and intelligence. But you can also think of the two working together.
Yeah.
And we're not really encouraged to have a deep relationship with the physical, with our bodies. And so much so that when I was a kid, I wore shin guards on my shins, but my parents were going through that terrible divorce, and the only thing that helped me to feel better was getting hurt over and over again. Like pain was a release for me. And so I got kicked so many times and the front of my right shin through my shin guard. So, I mean, in such profound pain that I just played off and walked, played through, that I lost the feeling on the front part of my leg. Because
Uh,
I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme where he's kicking that tree over and over again. It's to help him like lose feeling. So when he's fighting, he doesn't get hurt. That I actually have that on the front of my leg.
wow.
Until one day in high school, my leg was like, I can't take it anymore, swelled up to the size, almost it felt like an elephant leg.
Wow.
It was so crazy, and I had to stay off of it for a week to like get it to go down. Um, but yeah, your bodies will come calling and make life very uncomfortable until you agree to attend to the needs of the body.
Oh
So
yeah, and like with body talk, one of the cool things is that um there's a book called, well, I don't remember the name of the book, but it's all about the consciousness of the body. So each body part has different levels of consciousness.
mm,
And so a couple weeks ago, I got to work with a sheep. Amazing. And so the sheep's right elbow, right front right leg, she was lame. I tuned in, and the right elbow is heartbreak.
mhm,
She just lost her brother, and she was lame from the heartbreak of it. So it came through the session, and we tap it in, me and the human that is her steward. And about 3 days later, she sent me a picture or video of this beautiful sheep, Lucy, like testing her leg out, and then finally getting out of the barn and just like walking like she was. And I was like, oh my gosh, like animals carry heartbreak. Animals, like we all carry different, like whatever is achy
mhm,
carries energy.
mhm. Yes.
And what a gift that
Yes.
is, that our bodies are so intelligent.
Yeah. And I mean, that's part of the reason that I'm so, um, you know, concerned about the environment and what we're doing to all the animals we're displacing. But not only that, like the overharvesting of the fish in the oceans and the other animals in the oceans, the destruction of the rainforests in South America. I mean, all the havoc that we're wreaking on this planet, killing elephants, killing giraffes, killing rhinos, killing everything, it seems, killing sharks, harvesting their fins, whatever. Every single one of those creatures has feelings and a memory. And, as a panentheist, they're sacred. And we do
Yeah.
not have right relationship with any of them.
Mhm.
All those movies that came out, I can't remember, terrible movies. I can't remember. Jamie Lee Curtis was in one of them. And there was some sort of, I think it was an alien came down, and they finally discover the alien says, well, we were sent here to kill the virus. And Jamie Lee Curtis is like, "Well, we don't have a virus." And they're like, "The virus is you." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that little alien has a point. And so it's kind of, that also kind of helped me to understand, like, what does it look like to move through the world conscientious of the effect we're having, but also to treat it with respect,
Right.
and to not take more than we need, and
Mhm.
to not own 5 cars or 3-car garages or what have you. Like, how much do we really need? But I think a
Right.
lot of people are caught up in the dream of consumerism and, wanting to look good. And who doesn't want to look good? But how much do we really need? Like,
Right.
how much do we need to acquire and consume? So yeah, that's my latest rant.
No, I get it because like there's what we need. And wanted to I had the experience last week of a baby sparrow that was caught by a cat, and my friend Rob saved it, but didn't really save it because the tail feathers were taken out, and so she was dying, but we spent 2 hours being present with her.
Mm.
And I was able to like do energy, transfer to her just to like calm her down. And then I actually, she babies like just pet her head, so soft. And she ended up trusting us enough to die with us.
Wow.
And it was so profound because she actually went right before she died, she looked into Rob's eyes and actually smiled at him as a thank you,
Wow.
and then transitioned. And I was like, okay, like I was cold, I was thirsty, I didn't care. I was like, nope, I am present with this little one right now.
Yeah.
And when we have that gift of that much presence, then we realize not only the interconnectivity of all that is,
Oh,
but how profound it is that we get to experience that.
yeah. Absolutely. And I do think that, a lot of this repressed rage and anger and resentment and frustration in our society that is present and that kind of exploded during COVID, I think a lot of it comes from people who are tired of just trying to eke out a living, trying to get healthcare, trying to be treated like a legitimate human being. But not only that, trying to keep up with the Joneses, and like always thinking they need more, always needing the right car, the right watch, or the right phone, or whatever. And that's enough to drive anyone
Oh
slightly
yeah.
nutty. Yeah, and the feeling that you never have enough. Even if you have the ability to have shelter, food, healthcare,
Mhm.
always feeling like you never have enough, and you always need something else to be able to live in this world successfully. Why would anyone want to live their life like that? That is exhausting.
Oh yeah.
So I think a lot of the repressed rage and anger that came out is just from people who are tired. They're
Mhm.
tired of kind of the weird box that we've all found ourselves in, of needing to live this weird story where we need to keep buying more so that we actually have legitimacy and so other people will accept us.
Mhm.
But that's just my 2 cents. I could be totally off base.
No, I can see that because like what I've learned in the past few years is like going from being a former historian to being a healer, to remembering that I am a healer. Um, a lot of like the heart connection. And I really at this point don't care what your title is because I grew up in New England, so I don't care. I have a PhD, whatever. I don't like, I'm not, I honor the fact that I did it. I don't care about the title because what I care about is, am I connecting my heart to your heart? If I am, amazing. Then I get this amazing heart expansion. I get collaborative energy. I get like the joy of coexisting with somebody. And if I don't, that's okay too. But I know I'm not going to be able to foster a deeper relationship. And so the cultivation of that, excuse me, that heart resonance is like the driving motivator for me, because like with that, we can just send ripple effects out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need more of that.
Yeah, I mean, because and it's that trusting yourself so that you can trust another.
Yeah.
Because that's where the play is. I love collaboration. It's the coolest place to be in because there's no ego.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we co-create in this space of wonder that celebrates our gifts and feed off of that? And I think and sense that as we're like moving through this very challenging time of shaking off the old, because I feel that's happening. It's like this big like kind of level of shake, and like a dog like shaking out of the water level of shake, and like, oh, whoa, what was that? Oh, that was a big ass illusion that we're waking up from, of what we thought was real into the reality of the interconnectedness of all, and how magical that is.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. Oh my goodness. I pray so. I
Mhm.
mean, it always goes back to, for me at least, I just want more people to wake up to the fact that most people in the world, despite what the media tells us, they will rush into that burning house to save whoever is there, or to even save a dog or a cat.
Right.
I mean, most people want to help others and lift them up, and they're altruistic. They
Yep.
want to do that. And
Mhm.
so I just hope that more people recognize that the world is that way versus what we're told it is.
Well, I'm hoping that the, ooh, that's an interesting word, the shill of the four companies that own all the media is getting so dissonant that it's turning people away from it.
Yeah, I don't even watch the news anymore. I mean, I watch very little media. It's just it's the same stuff regurgitated over and over again. And I do think that the media exists to like make people fearful and constantly have people in fight or flight.
Right.
And that doesn't help me with my healing. So why would I pay attention to anything they said or
Right,
that they
exactly.
say? Yeah.
Exactly, because it's like, so what, like, why do I want to bring in something that's going to like activate my amygdala, get me out of parasympathetic mode? I don't want that, because that feels icky. It feels like I've already had that enough. I had adrenal fatigue from it. So like, I don't need that in my life anymore. So what brings me joy, what brings me peace, what brings me connection, and to really focus on that. And it's not just in the media. It's like, who are you spending time with? What's your diet like? How are you showing up in the world? Like, how are you doing self-care? And the perk that I've seen is, because I had a lot of people pleasing in my life, became an expert at it. So as I've divested myself of that, my self-care is my priority right now. And self-care is just like, I've done 3 podcasts today. I'm not going to socialize for the rest of the day. And that's okay, because like I'm actively engaged in a conversation, which is beautiful, and I love listening, and it's amazing, and I need to replenish. And so it's like bringing that self-awareness in, of, how do I love this temple? How do I love my soul? And if you don't know, just explore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It could be dancing for someone. It could be singing. It could be playing an instrument. It could be hanging out with friends. It could be a delicious cup of coffee. For every single person, it's going to be different.
Yep.
And that's all part of the adventure, finding whatever it is out in the world that nurtures and soothes you, that
Yeah.
nourishes your spirit. Because there's got
Mhm.
to be something out there for each and every one of us.
Yep. I completely agree. Mm. Oh, I love that smile.
I do a lot of laughing.
Laughing is so healthy. It's so freaking healthy. And
Absolutely.
it just shifts the energy of pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think being funny or being silly or laughing a lot is because, Lord knows this life is hard enough, but finding laughter wherever you can, that's, for me at least, a prescription for my heart. You know,
Mm.
helps my heart to be lighter, to rejoice in life, to remember that life is good. And that even if I were to die tomorrow, which I hope doesn't happen, that I fully kind of reveled in this life as much as I could.
Mhm. I love that mindset. It's so beautiful because like and it's choice again. It really is choice. Like, do I want to laugh or I've had way too many years being serious. Historian. Ugh.
Well, I don't know. That's pretty cool. What was your specialty?
I actually studied a radio station in the 1930s and 40s in the programming to understand how local, regional, and national culture played with each other.
So cool.
Yeah, it
Oh
was
my
pretty
God.
cool.
That's really interesting. How fascinating.
Well, my favorite part was listening to War of the Worlds on a drive to Ellsworth, Maine in the dark. And I love doing this. Like, I actually put myself as the person who listened to it for the first time driving on a very, very dark road.
Oh, wow.
I
Oh,
freaked myself out because, like, I pretended that I didn't know what it was.
yeah,
And so, like, I'm driving this very dark road from Bangor, Maine to Ellsworth. So it's like a 40-minute drive. And there's really no lights except your car lights.
right.
I
Wow.
have my cassette player playing it, and I'm like, oh my God, I could totally see why it freaked people out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Wow, that's really cool.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was really fun. I'm really grateful I'm done with it. Very grateful it's something I have gotten on the other side of.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like because I was curious, like what created separation.
Mhm.
That's always been a curiosity, man. Like, why is there separation in the world? Because I know there isn't.
Yeah.
And so what causes it? And so like academically, I took it as far as I could, and then I went in.
Okay.
So yeah,
Amazing.
thank you.
I love
Thank
that. What a great story, you know?
you. Thank you. Hmm. Well, sister, because I want to talk to you offline, I want to ask you, how can people find you?
Oh, yeah. Well, my podcast is Bite Sized Blessings, and it's BYTE. And all that to say, everything you want to know about me, you can find at bitesizedblessings.com. And you'll meet some of my guests that I've had on the podcast. You'll find out a little bit about me. There's a link to my animated series on YouTube. There's my 3 covers of my 3 books. Yeah, everything you want to know, it's there on my website. So that's the best place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this really beautiful, expansive, amazing conversation. I am so, so grateful to know you, to know what you're doing in the world, and to know how you're shining your light.
Thank you. I can't even believe an hour just passed. It seems like no time whatsoever, which means that the conversation was amazing and I loved every minute. So thanks for having me on.
You're so welcome, love.